Hello and welcome to the Atheist. This is my first video, so it probably won't be great, but so be it. No one's first attempt at anything is perfect, and being bad at something is the first step to being kind of good at it. I've already procrastinated too much from fear of how others might judge my work. I've edited and revised and excruciated over every sentence again and again. Now it's time to just publish. I have some ideas I want to share, and this is genuinely the best way I could put them into words. So with much hope and no expectations, I present the Atheist. In short, this channel is dedicated to elucidating the breadth, depth, and utility of the rational worldview. There are countless educational channels that teach the concepts of the rational worldview. They cover philosophy and math, physics, chemistry and biology, geology and astronomy, psychology, sociology, anthropology, and every other branch of natural philosophy out there. There are countless more social commentary channels that defend the rational worldview against faith-based perspectives. Proponents of reason argue for the validity of its ideas. They insist that rationality and morality are compatible. They combat the misinformation spread by bad faith actors. They combat the misinformation spread by bad faith actors who profit from others' ignorance, and they highlight the hypocrisies and contradictions of various religious worldviews. But there does not yet exist, to my knowledge, any channel that thoroughly conveys the rational worldview from the ground up, and which presents it as a viable alternative to its mystical and faith-based counterparts. That is what the Atheist will attempt to achieve. This first video should accomplish two things. First, it will summarize how the rational worldview is commonly perceived and offer an explanation as to why that is. And second, it will state the main thesis and goal of this channel. Among the general population today, the rational worldview is frequently misconstrued, misrepresented, casually discounted, or downright maligned. Some people overtly disdain rationality. There exists a cult of ignorance or strain of anti-intellectualism that has been recognized and cautioned against by various authors for nearly half a century. And sadly, it has been growing in prevalence and vitriol year by year. Others merely dismiss rationality. While credited for not being blind, the rational worldview is derided as, quote, lame by luminaries and laymen alike. In other words, the rational worldview is commonly judged as being dull, daunting, and bereft of meaning. Its depiction of the universe as a complex hierarchy of interactions leaves many feeling bewildered, and its depiction of human beings in the context of that universe leaves many feeling insignificant. Furthermore, it is a struggle to learn the many abstruse and unintuitive concepts that comprise the rational worldview. That discomfort on its own is enough to repel some people, but it is made worse by the classroom setting, where learning is obligatory, mistakes are punished, and students are given no opportunity to correct them. Unfortunately, most people's entire experience learning about the rational worldview is confined to that environment, and worse still, those negative associations are created during the formative years of childhood and adolescence, almost ensuring they become permanently entrenched. It is no wonder, then, that many people hold a poor opinion about the rational worldview. Moreover, beyond academia, much of the advocacy of the rational worldview strikes a combative tone. Those who defend its tenets and certitudes often transgress into attacking superstitious, mystical, or faith-based perspectives. Proponents of reason frequently come across as haughty, arrogant, or mean, and consequently, rationality has earned a reputation as robbing, taking, or depriving people of something. Due to all this, few regard the rational worldview as capable of evoking awe, of inspiring connection, or of supplying a fulfilling account of reality. By extension, few see it as capable of providing a moral foundation or any ethical insight whatsoever. And altogether, these uncharitable views are commonly summed up in the dismissive statement that, quote, science is so limited. Some scholars and theologians even go so far as to claim that reason is strictly limited to the analysis of physical phenomena, to the acquisition and refinement of knowledge. These individuals argue that religion is the institution exclusively suited to handling matters of ethics and morality, to providing meaning and purpose, and to imbuing life with richness and profundity. In other words, they suggest that reason and religion pertain to distinct and separate, quote, non-overlapping magisteria. However, this channel maintains that morality and knowledge are actually intrinsically linked, and that rational and religious concerns are in fact fully overlapping. Finally, the custom of discounting the rational worldview is likely partly inherited from the long history during which reason was silent on a great many important matters. Naturally curious, human beings have always sought answers, and for a long time reason failed to provide them. Thus the rational worldview earned a reputation as being, quote, so limited. 400 years ago, for example, the rational worldview could not explain what made the planets move across the night sky, nor the causes of weather, nor how humans and other organisms grow and develop over the course of their lives. 200 years ago, reason had no answer for the cause of disease, nor for the origin of humankind, nor for the composition of matter. Just over 100 years ago, reason had no answer for the age of the Earth, nor that of the universe, nor could it explain how the continents, planets, or stars were formed. Only in the last few decades has rational inquiry finally begun to illuminate the neurological mechanisms of consciousness itself. And only in the last few years have the centuries of insights gleaned by rational inquiry become easily accessible to anyone curious to learn about them. Given this legacy, it is also no wonder that the rational worldview is conventionally viewed as inadequate. Crucially, for almost all of human history, reason has failed to answer the mythic or big picture questions, those asked by humans of every culture throughout history. These existential questions concern matters of being and becoming, meaning and morality. They include queries such as, what are we? What is the world/cosmos around us? Where do we come from? Why are we here? And how ought we live our lives? The answers to these questions are important. People have killed for them. People have died for them. Monuments, pyramids, and cathedrals have been constructed in their honor. Kings and emperors have grounded their authority in them. Individuals have devoted their lives to them. Wars have been fought over them, and the fates of entire societies have been determined by them. These questions so pervasively nagged the human condition that the drive to answer them inspired the advent of religion itself. Indeed, religions can very well be defined and identified by the set of answers they give. And due to the historic inability of reason to provide answers to them, these questions have been monopolized by faith-based or occult perspectives. Only today, following the explosion of knowledge gained in the last century, and the development of the internet in this one, has the rational worldview finally matured into a comprehensive belief system. This generation represents the first in history during which the rational worldview can meaningfully answer all of those mythic questions. Only now, having filled in the grand mural of the universe, has reason arrived at legitimate answers to all of them. Only now, with the full archive of that information readily available, can humans begin to interpret it to derive a more ethical way of being. And only now might society shed the outdated attitude that, quote, science is so limited. Broadly speaking, attitudes about things are not intrinsic to those things themselves. Attitudes are emotional responses which have become ingrained in a person by intense or repeated experience. Essentially, attitudes are attributes of conscious beings, not the external things that evoke them. With that said, the elite theist holds that the rational worldview is not inherently dull or lame, nor is it daunting, nor does it imply that human life is significant. Does it imply that human life is insignificant. These negative attitudes are merely the conscious impressions that people harbor due to how reason is portrayed in society today. The purpose of this channel is to cast reason in a different light. The main goal is to present the rational worldview as one that shares the same essential qualities as its faith-based or mystical counterparts. The goal is to show that it has a fulfilling answer to all the aforementioned existential questions, that its ideas can arouse all the most cherished feelings of depth and wonder that humans possess, that it can underline a sense of meaning and purpose, that it can inspire profound connection between oneself and other humans, other animals, all living beings, the world at large, and the cosmos itself, that its portrayal of humans and human nature indeed provides a basis for morality and illuminates fundamental ethical principles, that it supplies a basis for extending the boundaries of compassion and cooperation, and strengthening personal, communal, and societal bonds. Now that's a bit wordy. Let's just go with yeah. That it that it prescribes the imperative to learn and grow and thrive, and that the utility and benefit of reason extends far beyond what is commonly credited to it. Ultimately, whether someone feels like the rational worldview can be fulfilling, ultimately, whether someone feels like the rational worldview can be fulfilling, profound, meaningful, etc., depends on them. Each person is the sole arbiter of their sentiments. No one can force another to feel differently about anything. Therefore, the elite theist does not seek to convert or coerce anyone. Rather, this channel seeks to coalesce those who already appreciate the rational worldview, those who accept the facts as reason has revealed them, and the cosmic story that they tell. Those who accept the facts as reason has revealed them. Yeah, we don't need all that. Those who value the progress of rational inquiry. Oh, boo. And those who believe in the core principles of reasoning. Beyond that, as stated above, the elite theist will candidly present the rational worldview as a viable alternative to mystical and faith-based perspectives, and in doing so, it will offer answers to the big picture questions without the dubious claims that those perspectives bring. To conclude, I'd like to make it clear that the elite theist does not exist to repudiate other belief systems. Rather, its intended purpose is the exact opposite. First and foremost, it is specifically concerned with clarifying the rational worldview. These videos are meant to affirm the one, not to disparage any other. And secondly, this channel respects other belief systems because it is born out of the recognition that they all share the same essential qualities. Each has its core principles. Each has its understanding of the cosmos. Each has its explanation for the origin and essence of human beings. And each has its conception of a higher power, whether or not... I actually want to put the even in there. And each even has its conception of a higher power, whether or not that power possesses human-like consciousness, and whether the word for it is spelled God or Nature. Essentially, I believe in the concepts of the rational worldview just as strongly as adherents of any religious or mystical paradigm do theirs. I derive the same comfort and guidance from my understanding of reality as they do, and I ground my morality in that understanding just as they do. I also believe that millions of other people all over the world hold the same convictions as I do. Most probably aren't as passionate about them as I am. Some haven't studied the concepts as deeply as I have, and still others haven't necessarily formulated these convictions into a definitive outlook. But there is a growing demographic of people who have outgrown Iron Age mythologies, who have left behind superstition, and who reject the authoritarian ethos of most organized religions. That doesn't mean such people are immoral brutes lacking any semblance of conscience, nor are they confused children who have simply lost their connection to some deity, nor are they pitiable nihilists wandering aimlessly through life, numb to its richness and beauty. On the contrary, the secular community is just as morally attuned as the devout. They find belonging with their fellow humans, fellow animals, and fellow organisms more broadly. They find meaning in any number of worthy endeavors. Secular people are sensitive to the full range of human emotions, including empathy and sympathy. They can even have those rare transcendent experiences that are typically attributed to a divine interaction. And many even nurture their own personal sense of the sacred. The secular community is, however, largely atomized. If such individuals seem to struggle more with the plights of existence, perhaps it's because there is no church or temple or mosque for them to gather at and find community. There are no priests or rabbis or imams for them to speak to for guidance. There is no century-old heritage for them to embrace. There are, of course, individuals and groups that advocate science for all the material benefits it has provided society. There are institutions that do science, making discoveries and expanding human knowledge. And there are organizations that champion non-theistic philosophies, such as humanism and secularism. But as far as I'm aware, there is no organization that presents reason as a candidate for reconciling the human condition. There are none concerned with the spiritual well-being of skeptics. It is my hope that the Aletheist can fill that role. I want the Aletheist to be a place that evaluates reason with a reverence classically reserved for faith. Needless to say, I credit rational inquiry for the modern miracles that society enjoys today, and I respect the insights it continues to offer. I applaud and admire the legions of people doing science all over the world, every day, in countless fields. And my motivations align with the movement to promote critical thinking, education, and democracy, to ground morality in human. And my motivations align with the movement to. And my motivations align with the movement to promote critical thinking, education, and democracy, to ground morality in humanity's evolutionary history. Oof, that's a mouthful. Morality in humanity's evolutionary history. To forsake the notion of the afterlife for the betterment of this one, and to take charge of improving society, given that humans are the sole arbiters of justice. That being said, the Aletheist differs in its examination of reason. Appreciating reason for the technology it fosters is one thing. Applying reason to learn more about the natural world is another, and basing one's moral philosophy in reason is another still. Distinct from all that, this channel aims to codify the foundations of reason in order to substantiate the appreciation and knowledge that derive from it, and it aims to render a belief system from that knowledge in order to validate the moral tenets of humanist philosophies. In the coming videos, starting in Universal Doubt, the Aletheist will offer a set of core principles which ground all knowledge. It will then convey that knowledge in the form of a story that explains how the cosmos, the world, and humanity itself came to be. And it will tell this story with an emphasis on the lessons it contains. It will tell the story with an emphasis on the lessons it contains, and it will then derive an ethical framework and construe a meaning of life in light of that story. Thank you for listening. Please like the video if you agree with the ideas presented in it, subscribe to the channel if you believe in the rational worldview and its potential, and comment if you have questions, suggestions, compliments, or critiques about the content.